Grandmother's last words still echo in my mind. Protect our legacy, little fox. Some people will do anything for money, even family. I didn't understand what she meant until yesterday, when I opened her antique jewelry box and found it empty. My name is Fiona, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered my own mother betrayed not just me, but everything our family stands for. Mom? I called out, rushing down the stairs of our Victorian home, the hollow jewelry box clutched in my trembling hands. Where's Grandma Ivy's sapphire collection? My mother Jennifer looked up from her fashion magazine, her freshly Botoxed face barely moving as she spoke. Oh, honey, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Meaning to talk about what exactly? The box felt heavy in my hands, despite its emptiness. These were supposed to be mine. Grandma made that clear in her will. There was an emergency, she said, setting down her magazine. I had no choice. What emergency? My voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? Bills, sweetheart. Medical bills. She reached for her purse, hands shaking as she pulled out some papers. See? Everything just piled up so quickly. I snatched the papers from her manicured hands, scanning the dates and amounts. Something wasn't adding up. These are from 3 months ago. You told me everything was fine then. I didn't want to worry you, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. You were so busy with work, and after losing your grandmother... Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. Those jewels were priceless family heirlooms. Grandma specifically left them to me because she always liked you better, Mom snapped, then immediately softened her tone. I'm sorry, baby. I was desperate. I'll make it up to you somehow. My Aunt Vera chose that moment to walk in through the front door. She never knocks anymore. Her eyes darted between us, sensing the tension. What's going on? Mom sold Grandma's sapphires, I said flatly. Apparently for some emergency she never told me about. Vera's face darkened. Jennifer, you didn't. What choice did I have? Mom stood up, dabbing at her eyes with the tissue. The bills were overwhelming. I couldn't let them send collectors after us. Us? I laughed bitterly. There is no us in this situation. Those weren't yours to sell. I'm still your mother. She grabbed my arm. Everything I do for this family. I yanked my arm away, finally noticing something odd about her face. The smoothness, the slight swelling around her cheeks. Mom, what did you do to your face? She touched her cheek self-consciously. Just a little maintenance, nothing major. Vera stepped closer, examining our mother's face. Jennifer, is this what the emergency money went to? Mom's silence was all the confirmation I needed. You sold Grandma's heirlooms for plastic surgery? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Do you have any idea what those meant to her? To me? You don't understand, she sobbed, reaching for me again. I'm getting older. I need to maintain my appearance. The world is cruel to aging women. The world is cruel to liars, too. I shot back, backing away from her touch. Where did you sell them? Fiona, please. Where? Carlisle's Antiques downtown, she finally admitted, collapsing onto the sofa. But it's too late. They're gone. Some collector from Europe already bought them. I turned to Vera, who looked as disgusted as I felt. Did you know about this? She shook her head. No, but honestly, I'm not surprised. Your mother has always been creative with the truth when it comes to money. Vera, don't you dare. Mom stood up, mascara running down her cheeks. I've done everything for this family. Everything. And this is how you both treat me? I clutched the empty jewelry box tighter, remembering the day Grandma showed me each piece, telling me the stories behind them. How they'd been passed down through generations of strong women in our family. Women who faced real challenges, not imagined ones. I'm calling Dorian, I announced, pulling out my phone. He's still practicing estate law, right? You wouldn't. Mom gasped. Your own mother? Watch me. I started dialing. Grandma was right about you. She knew exactly what you'd try to do. That's why she made me executor of her estate. As my mother dissolved into theatrical sobs, I walked out of the room, Vera following close behind. My grandmother's words echoed in my head again. Protect our legacy, little fox. And that's exactly what I intended to do, no matter the cost. These bank statements don't lie, I muttered, spreading papers across my Aunt Vera's kitchen table. Look at these transactions from the past 6 months. Vera leaned over my shoulder, her reading glasses perched on her nose. Luxury spa treatments, designer boutiques, and is that a membership to some exclusive club? The Velvet Room, I confirmed, circling the recurring charge. $5,000 per month just for access. Some exclusive social club downtown. Your mother always did have expensive taste. Vera sighed, settling into the chair beside me. Remember when she spent your college fund on that trip to Paris? Yeah, and told me it was stolen by identity thieves. I grabbed my coffee, letting the bitter taste fuel my growing anger. I worked 3 jobs to pay for my first semester. My phone buzzed, another text from Mom. Baby, please call me. I can explain everything. I ignored it, just like the previous 20 messages. There's something else you should know, Vera said, getting up to retrieve a folder from her desk. I've been keeping track of some things since your grandmother passed. She pulled out a stack of receipts and handwritten notes. Every time Jennifer claimed there was an emergency, I documented it. Medical emergencies, car repairs, roof leaks. And let me guess, none of them were real? Bingo. Vera spread out the papers. That emergency appendectomy last year? She was actually at a wellness retreat in Arizona. The critical roof repair? New wardrobe from Nordstrom. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dorian. Got the preliminary paperwork ready? Meet at my office at 2? Yes, please, I texted back. What's your plan? Vera asked, watching me gather the evidence. First, I'm meeting with Dorian to review Grandma's will. There might be clauses we can use to protect what's left of the estate. I stood up, stuffing papers into my messenger bag. Then I'm paying a visit to Carlisle's Antiques. I'll come with you, Vera offered, grabbing her car keys. That old buzzard Carlisle knows me. He might be more willing to talk. The drive downtown was tense. Another call from Mom. Ignored. Carlisle's Antiques was exactly as I remembered it from childhood visits with Grandma. The bell above the door chimed as we entered, and Mr. Carlisle himself looked up from his ledger. Vera McCarthy. He smiled, then his face fell slightly when he saw me. And young Fiona, I was expecting one of you eventually. The Sapphire Collection, I said without preamble. How much did she get for it? Carlisle shifted uncomfortably. I'm not at liberty to discuss— Cut the crap, George, Vera interrupted. We know Jennifer sold them. We need to know if there's any way to track down the buyer. He hesitated, then sighed. $150,000. Well below their actual worth, but she was insistent on a quick sale. My stomach lurched. $150,000? For emergency medical bills? Medical bills? Carlisle frowned. She mentioned something about a surgeon, but it wasn't for anything urgent. Said she'd been planning it for months. Just then, my phone lit up with a social media notification. My cousin Xavier had tagged me in a post. A photo from the Velvet Room taken last night. There was my mother, face freshly done, wearing a designer dress I'd never seen before, champagne glass in hand. The caption read, Auntie J living her best life. That lying— I couldn't even finish the sentence. My hands were shaking too hard. Fiona, Vera said quietly, there's something else you should know. Your mother came to me last week asking to borrow money. Said she needed it for property taxes. Let me guess. Another lie? I followed her after I turned her down. She went straight to a cosmetic surgeon's office. Vera pulled out her phone, showing me a photo she'd taken. I did some digging. She's scheduled for another procedure next week. The bell chimed again, and we turned to see Xavier walking in, looking sheepish. Hey, cuz. Guess you saw my post? Take it down, I growled. Already did, he said quickly. Look, I had no idea about the jewelry. Mom told me what happened this morning. I just thought you should see what she's really been up to. I looked at the evidence in my hands, bank statements, receipts, photos. 6 months of calculated deception, all leading up to the theft of my inheritance. Thanks for your help, Mr. Carlyle, I said, turning toward the door. I've got a meeting with my lawyer. Fiona, he called after me. For what it's worth, I tried to talk her out of it. Told her those pieces should stay in the family. They should have, I replied. And now she's going to learn exactly what that means. As we left the shop, I finally answered one of Mom's texts. Hope the new face was worth it. See you in court. Family dinner had always been a monthly tradition at our house, but this one was different. The tension was thick enough to cut with the expensive silver knives Mom insisted on using, the ones she probably bought with my inheritance money. Pass the potatoes, please, Mom said sweetly, as if nothing was wrong. Her new face looked even more obvious in the dining room lighting. Interesting choice of serving dishes, I commented, nodding at the crystal bowl. New? Oh, these old things. She laughed nervously. Just something I had in storage. Xavier nearly choked on his wine. Funny, I saw those exact ones at Marshall's last week. Premium collection, right? Mom's smile faltered slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. Just like you don't know about the emergency that required you to sell Grandma's sapphires? I set down my fork. Or should we discuss your actual emergency? The one involving Botox and fillers? The room went silent. Vera stopped mid-bite, and Xavier leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. This is hardly the time or place, Mom started. Actually, I interrupted, pulling out my phone, this is exactly the time and place. Everyone's here, so everyone can see exactly what kind of emergency you had. I pulled up the before and after photos from her surgeon's Instagram page. She hadn't even bothered to ask them not to post them. You went to Dr. Reynolds? Vera asked, peering at the phone. He's the most expensive cosmetic surgeon in the city. $150,000 worth of expensive, I added. That's what Grandma's sapphires went for. At a fraction of their real value, by the way. Mom's face, what could move of it, contorted with rage. You went behind my back? Investigated me like some kind of criminal? You went behind mine first, I shot back. Those jewels were legally mine. You committed theft, Mom. Plain and simple. I am your mother. Everything I own is yours eventually anyway. That's not how inheritance law works, Xavier chimed in. Actually, Fiona could press charges if she wanted to. Mom's head snapped toward him. Since when are you an expert on law? Since I started dating a legal assistant. He shrugged. She found some interesting things when I asked her to look into this, by the way. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table to me. You might want to read this later. Before I could reach for it, Mom snatched it up. Don't you dare, I warned, standing up. This is my house, she snapped, ripping open the envelope. As she read, all the color drained from her face. What is it? Vera asked. Nothing, Mom said quickly, trying to stuff the papers back inside. Xavier cleared his throat. Those are records of other sales. Apparently the sapphires weren't the only things that disappeared after Grandma died. Give me those papers, I demanded, walking around the table. Mom jumped up, backing away. These are private family matters. Exactly, I said. And I'm the executor of Grandma's estate. Those papers. Now. She looked around wildly, then made a dash for the kitchen. I heard the garbage disposal whir to life. Are you kidding me? I ran after her, but it was too late. The papers were gone. It doesn't matter, Xavier called from the dining room. I have copies. My girlfriend made sure of that. Mom slumped against the counter, finally dropping her perfect hostess act. You don't understand. None of you do. Do you know what it's like to watch yourself fade away? To become invisible? Do you know what it's like to watch your mother destroy everything your grandmother built? I countered. To realize every emergency, every crisis, every time you needed help was just another manipulation? I gave you everything. You took everything, I corrected her. And now you're going to face the consequences. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Vera went to answer it. Fiona? She called. There's someone here you need to see. I walked to the front door, Mom trailing behind me. Standing on the porch was a man I hadn't seen in 5 years. My father. Hello, Princess, he said softly. Xavier called me. Said there were some things about your mother's financial dealings I should know about. Mom made a small choking sound behind me. Calvin, she whispered. You can't be here. Actually, he said, pulling out what looked like old bank statements. I think I'm exactly where I need to be. We need to talk about what really happened to our joint accounts before the divorce. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Xavier. Remember those interesting things my girlfriend found? This is just the beginning. The papers Mom had destroyed suddenly didn't seem so important anymore. Whatever was coming next would be much, much bigger. Your mother didn't just take the sapphires, Dorian said, spreading documents across his office desk. She's been systematically liquidating assets for years. I slumped in the leather chair across from him, clutching my coffee like a lifeline. How bad is it? Bad enough that your father's here. He gestured to where Dad sat by the window, looking through old financial records. The beach house in Maine, Dad muttered. The vacation property in Colorado. All sold within months of each other, right before our divorce. But those were jointly owned, I said. How could she sell them without your signature? Dorian pulled out another document. That's where it gets interesting. Look at these signatures. I leaned forward, examining the papers. These don't match. Forgery, Dad confirmed, his voice tight. She got better at it over time, but these early ones are sloppy. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. Please come home. We can work this out as a family. Don't respond, Dorian advised, noting my expression. Everything needs to go through legal channels now. A knock at the door interrupted us. Xavier's girlfriend Maria walked in, carrying a thick folder. You're going to want to see this, she said, laying out more documents. I found something in the property records. There's a hidden asset, a condo downtown registered to a shell company. Let me guess, I said. Purchased around the time Grandma's sapphires disappeared? 2 days after the sale, Maria confirmed. But here's the kicker. It's not in your mom's name. It's registered to someone named Patricia Wells. Dad's head snapped up. That's her mother's maiden name. Classic hiding technique, Dorian noted, but sloppy. Very sloppy. There's more, Maria continued. The condo was used as collateral for a loan last month. A big one. I felt my stomach drop. How big? $200,000. Jesus, Dad whispered. What is she into? My phone rang. Vera this time. I put her on speaker. Fiona, you need to get to the house now. Her voice was urgent. Your mother's trying to access the safe deposit box at the bank. The one with Grandma's will and the rest of the jewelry. She can't, I said. I'm the only one with access. She's claiming emergency family authorization, says you're incapacitated. She's what? I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. I'm heading to the bank now, Vera said. But you need to get there first. You're the legal executor. Dorian was already grabbing his coat. I'm coming with you. Maria, keep digging into that loan. Dad? I'll stay here. Dad nodded. Keep looking through these records. The drive to the bank was a blur of red lights and honking horns. We made it just as Mom was arguing with the bank manager. There you are, she exclaimed when she saw me. Tell them, honey. Tell them about your condition. What condition would that be, Mom? I asked coldly. The one you made up to try and steal more family heirlooms? The bank manager looked between us. Mrs. Nelson, you claimed your daughter was in a medical facility, unable to make decisions. She's confused, Mom insisted. The stress has been too much for her. The only thing I'm stressed about, I said clearly, is discovering my mother's pattern of theft and fraud. Dorian stepped forward, presenting his credentials. I'm Miss Stone's attorney, sound mind, and the legal executor of the estate. Furthermore, he pulled out a document. We're here to freeze this account pending criminal investigation. Mom's perfectly sculpted. Fiona, you wouldn't? Actually, I would. To the bank manager. I'd like to access the box now. I want to review. To access. Of course. He nodded. Right this way. As we followed him to the vault, Mom grabbed my arm. You don't understand. That loan, I had no choice. There are people. Save it for your lawyer. I cut her off. You're going to need one. The safe deposit box contained exactly what I feared. Empty spaces where more jewelry should have been. But it also held something unexpected. A letter from Grandma, dated just weeks before she died. What is it? Dorian asked, noting my expression as I read. Proof, I said quietly. Proof that Grandma knew exactly what Mom was capable of, and instructions on how to stop her. Mom had gone pale. Ivy wouldn't what? Protect her legacy from you? I folded the letter carefully. Looks like she did exactly that, and now I know what I have to do next. As we left the bank, my phone buzzed one final time. A text from Xavier. Maria found something big. Really big. Come back to Dorian's office ASAP. The day wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Gambling debts. Maria announced as soon as we walked back into Dorian's office. Your mother's been losing big at the Velvet Room. That's what the loan was for. The social club? I sat down heavily. It's a casino? High-stakes private gambling, Xavier explained. Very exclusive, very illegal. That's why she needed the membership. Dad pushed a stack of papers toward me. Look at these credit card statements. Thousands withdrawn at ATMs near the club, multiple times per week. The loan sharks are getting impatient, Maria added. That's why she's been so desperate for quick cash. I thought about the empty safe deposit box, the missing jewelry, the sold properties. How much does she owe? At least $500,000, Maria said quietly. And that's just what we can trace. The room went silent. Dorian was the first to speak. We need to act fast. Fiona, that letter from your grandmother, what did it say? I pulled it out with shaking hands. Grandma set up a trust. A secret one, separate from the main estate. She knew Mom would try to get her hands on everything, so she created a safety net. Smart woman. Dorian smiled. Let me guess. You're the trustee? With full control, I confirmed. And there's more. She left evidence of Mom's previous frauds. Documents, photos, bank records, everything we need to prove this isn't new behavior. A knock at the door made us all jump. Vera walked in, looking grim. Your mother's at the Velvet Room, she said. I followed her there. She's trying to get another loan. We can't let that happen. Dad stood up. Those people are dangerous. We won't, I said, pulling out my phone. Dorian, how quickly can we freeze her accounts? With the evidence we have? Within the hour. Do it, I ordered. Xavier, call your contact at the Gaming Commission. If the Velvet Room is running illegal games, they need to know. On it. He grabbed his phone. What about me? Dad asked. Those forged signatures on the property sales. We need to file fraud charges. He nodded grimly. Already started the paperwork. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your mother owes us money. Family should help family. You have 24 hours. They're threatening me now. I showed the message to Dorian. Perfect, he said. That's exactly what we need. Maria, start the restraining order paperwork. Already done. She held up a file. Just needs your signature. I signed quickly, then turned to Vera. There's one more thing we need to do. Remember that storage unit Grandma mentioned in her letter? Vera's eyes widened. The one with all the evidence? That's the one. We need to get there before Mom figures it out. I'll drive, Xavier offered. Maria, keep working with Dorian on the legal stuff. She nodded, already typing furiously on her laptop. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town. Unit 247 looked like any other, but when we rolled up the door, we found a gold mine of evidence. Look at these. Vera held up a stack of photos. Your mother with known loan sharks dating back 20 years. And these? Xavier pulled out more files. Bank statements showing systematic theft from your grandfather's business before he died. Grandma knew, I realized. She knew all along and was building a case. Your grandmother was nobody's fool, a voice said behind us. We spun around to find Dad standing there, holding an old leather journal. How did you— Ivy told me about this place years ago, he said. Made me promise to only reveal it if things got bad enough. I'd say we're there. He handed me the journal. This is your grandmother's record of everything your mother ever stole, lied about, or manipulated, including what she did to break up our marriage. I opened the journal with trembling hands. There, in Grandma's elegant handwriting, was the truth I'd been looking for my whole life. My phone buzzed again. Dorian. Accounts frozen. Gaming commission raiding the Velvet Room now. Your mother's being detained for questioning. It's time, I said, closing the journal. Let's end this. What are you going to do? Vera asked. Exactly what Grandma wanted, I replied. Use the trust to protect what's left of our family's legacy and make sure Mom never has the chance to destroy it again. She won't take this well, Xavier warned. No, I agreed, looking at the mountain of evidence surrounding us. But for once, she won't have a choice. As if on cue, my phone rang. Mom's number. But this time, I was ready to answer. Hello, Mother, I said calmly. I think it's time we had a real conversation about consequences. The silence on the other end told me she finally understood. Her game was over, and I was the one holding all the cards. The police station's interview room felt smaller than it looked on TV. Mom sat across from me, her perfect makeup smeared with tears, her designer outfit wrinkled from hours of questioning. Did you read Grandma's letter? I asked, sliding the envelope across the steel table. Her hands shook as she opened it. My dearest Fiona, she read aloud. If you're reading this, then Jennifer has done exactly what I feared she would. Keep reading, I said quietly. The money, the jewels, the properties, they were never what mattered. What matters is the truth. Your mother has spent her entire life running from it, destroying everything and everyone in her path. Mom's voice cracked. Mother, how could you? How could you? I countered. The loan sharks? The gambling? Stealing from your own family? I was going to win it all back, she whispered. Just one more game. One more chance. Detective Roberts knocked and entered, carrying a thick file. Mrs. Nelson, we've finished reviewing the evidence from the Velvet Room. Would you like to explain these? He spread out photographs. Mom with known criminals, handling large sums of cash. That's not— I didn't— Save it. I cut in. We found Grandma's storage unit. We know everything. Everything? Her face went pale. The forged checks from Grandpa's business. The real reason Dad left. The fake cancer scare you used to get sympathy money from the church. I leaned forward. 20 years of lies, Mom. All documented. She slumped in her chair. What do you want from me? The truth. For once in your life, just tell the truth. The door opened again. Dad walked in with Dorian. The Gaming Commission wants to make a deal, Dorian announced. They'll reduce charges if you testify against the Velvet Room's operators. And the loan sharks? Mom asked weakly. We've frozen all your accounts, I said. The trust Grandma set up? It's being used to pay back your legitimate debts. But the illegal ones? You're on your own. You can't do this to me. She stood up suddenly. I'm your mother. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose gambling over family. I shot back. The moment you sold Grandma's sapphires for plastic surgery. The moment you forged Dad's signature and drove him away. It wasn't like that, she protested. Dad stepped forward. Then what was it like, Jennifer? Tell us. Tell your daughter why you destroyed our family. Mom looked around the room like a cornered animal. Finally, she broke. I couldn't stand being ordinary, she burst out. Your grandmother had everything, the respect, the status, the legacy. I married into this family thinking I'd have that too, but all I got were expectations and judgment. So you decided to steal it instead? I asked. I deserved it. All those years playing the perfect wife, the perfect mother, I deserved something for myself. Detective Roberts cleared his throat. Mrs. Nelson, are you confessing to theft and fraud? She fell silent, reality finally catching up. Here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling out a document. You're going to sign control of all remaining assets over to the trust. You're going to enter rehabilitation for your gambling addiction, and you're going to tell the Gaming Commission everything you know about the Velvet Room. And if I refuse? Then we press charges, Dad said. All of them. The fraud, the theft, the forgery. You'll go to prison, Jennifer. She stared at the document for a long moment. What about my debts? The legal ones will be handled, I assured her. The illegal ones, well, maybe prison would be safer than facing those collectors. Her hand trembled as she reached for the pen. I never meant for it to go this far. You never meant to get caught, I corrected her. There's a difference. She signed the papers, then looked up at me with tears in her eyes. What happens now? Now? I stood up. Now you face the consequences, just like Grandma knew you'd have to someday. As we left the police station, Dad put his arm around my shoulders. Your grandmother would be proud of you, Princess. I'm not sure about that, I said. This doesn't feel like a victory. It's not supposed to, Dorian chimed in, but it's necessary. Sometimes protecting a legacy means making hard choices. My phone buzzed. A text from Xavier. Maria found the buyer of the sapphires. He's willing to sell them back. I smiled slightly. Maybe some things could be recovered after all. But as I watched Mom being led away by officers, I knew some things would never be the same. And maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. Please, Fiona, I need money for the commissary, Mom begged through the prison phone. Her face on the video screen looked different. Older, stripped of its artificial smoothness. 3 months in county jail had worn away the facade she'd spent so much money creating. No, I said firmly. The trust will provide basic necessities, but that's it. No extras. You don't understand what it's like in here. Her voice cracked. The other inmates, maybe you should have thought about that before you testified against half the people in the Velvet Room. She flinched. They were criminals. So were you, Mom. That's why you're there. A guard appeared behind her. 5 minutes, Nelson. Mom leaned closer to the screen. What about the rehabilitation program? If I complete it, can I come home? Home? I laughed without humor. The house has been sold to pay your debts, remember? But where will I go when I get out? The trust will provide for a small apartment and living expenses, contingent on you maintaining sobriety and attending therapy. I held up the document. Just like we agreed. You're treating me like a child. No, I'm treating you like someone who stole from their family and gambled away their future. I softened my tone slightly. This is what getting help looks like, Mom. The door to the prison visiting room opened and Vera walked in. Mom's expression hardened. What is she doing there? Supporting me, I said. Unlike some people. Vera placed a hand on my shoulder. Jennifer, the sapphires are back in the family's possession. Mom's eyes widened. How? The buyer was more understanding than you deserved, I explained. Once he learned they were stolen family heirlooms, he agreed to sell them back. At cost. Using my money, I suppose? Using what's left of Grandma's trust. I corrected her. The money you didn't manage to gamble away. A tear rolled down her cheek. I never meant to hurt you, baby. I needed to feel special. You were special, Mom. You were my mother. That should have been enough. The guard appeared again. Time's up. Wait! Mom pressed her hand against the screen. What about your father? Are you talking to him? Dad's been helping clean up your mess, I said. He's been more of a parent in the past 3 months than you were in the last 5 years. He left us. No, you drove him away. With lies, with theft, with your endless need for more. I stood up. The truth was in Grandma's journal, remember? She slumped in her chair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix what you broke. Then what will? She whispered. Time. Truth. Actually doing the work instead of just pretending to change. I gathered my things. Complete the program, Mom. Go to therapy. Deal with whatever made you think destroying our family was worth it. And then we'll see. I nodded to the guard. We're done here. As we walked out of the prison, Vera squeezed my arm. You're doing the right thing, you know. Am I? Sometimes it feels like I'm being too harsh. She needs boundaries, Fiona. Structure, real consequences. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Dinner tonight? Xavier and Maria are coming. They found something else in the records you should see. More secrets? I asked Vera. I'm not sure I can handle any more. Actually, she smiled. This one might be good news. Your grandmother left something else in that storage unit. Something your mother never knew about. What? Come to dinner and find out. She dangled her car keys. Sometimes family secrets can heal as well as hurt. I took one last look at the prison behind us. Mom was being led back to her cell, shoulders slumped, designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit. You know she'll try to manipulate you again, Vera warned. I know. I got into the car. But this time I'm ready for it. Because of Grandma's letter? Because I finally understand what Grandma meant about protecting our legacy. I buckled my seatbelt. It's not about the jewelry or the money, it's about breaking the cycle. As we drove away, another text came through, from Mom's rehabilitation counselor. Your mother asked to start individual therapy today. Small steps, but progress. Maybe, just maybe, some things could be rebuilt. Not the same as before, but something new. Something honest. For now, though, I had a dinner to get to, and a family, or what was left of it, waiting to share one more secret. This time, I hoped, one that wouldn't break my heart. Happy birthday, Grandma, I whispered, placing fresh flowers beside her headstone. The morning dew still clung to the grass, and the sapphire pendant around my neck caught the early sunlight. She would have loved this, Dad said, standing beside me. All of us here together. Xavier and Maria spread out a blanket nearby, while Vera unpacked a basket of Grandma's favorite breakfast pastries. Our new tradition, morning picnics at the cemetery, had started spontaneously after we discovered Grandma's final gift. Show them the letter, Xavier urged. The real one. I pulled out the weathered envelope we'd found hidden in a false bottom of the storage unit. Unlike Mom's manipulation and lies, this secret had been worth keeping. Dear ones, I read aloud. If you're having breakfast by my grave, it means the truth has finally come out. Jennifer's actions have consequences, yes, but don't let them poison your hearts. Family isn't just blood. It's choice. Choose to be better. Choose to be together. She knew. Vera smiled. She knew we'd find our way back to each other. There's more, I continued. In my safety deposit box, the real one, not the decoy Jennifer knew about, you'll find letters for each of you. Read them when you're ready. And remember, sometimes family trees need pruning to grow stronger. Dad pulled out his own letter. Mine told me to come home, to help you through this. She knew I'd been staying away out of shame. Mine led me to Maria. Xavier squeezed his now fiancé's hand. Grandma's letter told me to look closer at the people already in my life. And mine? Vera held up her paper. Told me to be the bridge this family needed, to help pick up the pieces. My phone buzzed. Mom's Rehabilitation Center. I answered on speaker. Fiona? Mom's voice sounded different. Clearer, more genuine. I finished the program today. 6 months sober. That's good, Mom. I'm not asking to come home. she said quickly. I know I haven't earned that. I found something in therapy about why I did what I did. Would you, would you let me tell you about it? Over coffee, maybe? I looked at my family gathered around Grandma's grave, then at the final line of her letter. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to give someone the chance to change. Coffee, I agreed, but not alone. Dad and Vera will come too. Thank you. Mom's voice cracked. And Fiona? I saw the trust statement. Thank you for paying for my therapy instead of just the basics. After hanging up, Maria pulled out one last item from the picnic basket, Grandma's old photo album. Look what we found in the storage unit. She opened to a marked page. Your grandmother left notes. There, beside each family photo, were Grandma's observations. Not just dates and places, but insights. Warnings about Mom's early signs of trouble. Hope for Dad's eventual return. Pride in my resilience. She didn't just leave us money or jewelry, I realized. She left us a roadmap. For healing, Dad nodded. For rebuilding, Vera added. For choosing better, Xavier finished. I touched the sapphire pendant, not just recovered jewelry now, but a symbol of everything we'd learned. So, what do we choose? We choose to be here, Dad said firmly. To be honest, Vera added. To be family, Xavier and Maria said together. The morning sun had fully risen now, warming the cemetery and making the dew sparkle like scattered diamonds. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. Your turn. Dad nudged me. What do you choose? I looked at my phone, at Mom's text asking about coffee, at the family surrounding me with love and truth instead of manipulation and lies, at Grandma's headstone, where she'd watched over all of this unfolding exactly as she'd planned. I choose to be strong, I said. Strong enough to set boundaries. Strong enough to forgive without forgetting. Strong enough to let people earn their way back without guaranteeing they'll succeed. Just like Ivy. Vera smiled. Just like Grandma, I agreed, touching the headstone one last time. And that's the best legacy of all. We settled in for breakfast, sharing stories and memories, laughter mixing with the morning bird song. Not a perfect family. We'd never be that. But a real one, finally. One built on truth instead of lies, strength instead of manipulation, love instead of fear. And somewhere, I knew, Grandma was watching with satisfaction, knowing her final secret had done exactly what she'd intended. It had given us the chance to choose what kind of family we wanted to be. We chose well.